Hello and welcome to Mike and the Doc, a podcast where we discuss, well, pretty much everything. I'm Mike.
And I'm the doc. And in today's episode, we'll be discussing our backgrounds. And a real hot topic that we've seen of recent is anti-aging, as well as Bryanjohnson. He's all over the internet.
We're happy you're with us, and we hope you learned something along the way. So, Doc, how did you get into what you do today?
You know, I wanted to, let's take a moment just to kind of rewind.
That's a big question.
I grew up in Canada, but my parents, their roots trace back to a place called Bangladesh, and that's like India adjacent. So basically, I'm the product of an immigrant family. They came over initially to the U.S., and then they went to Canada, and that's when they had all of us kids. So being an immigrant, they really pushed for, making it, whether it's in America or Canada, it's kind of the same thing. You come from a third world or worse country and you come to the US or Canada and you want to make it because they were immigrants. And they were super spiritual as well. And so what they wanted to do is they really wanted to instill, giving back, right? So this is really, really deep is, if you think about it, if my parents didn't come over, and I was having these thoughts when I was like 10 or 11, if they didn't come over, then the only difference between a kid, say in Bangladesh or India or whatever, like begging for money, and me as a 10-year-old kid in America or Canada it's just luck, right? It's just like rolling the dice, right? So spiritually, and we don't want to get too much into religion and politics, but spiritually, you've been given this luck, right? By higher creator or whatever. And so my dad and my mom were like, no, you need to give back and do something for the less fortunate because of all the resources you've been given. And then, when we talk about luck, that brings us to Vegas, where luck is totally interpreted in a very unique way. As far as medicine is concerned, though, that was the crux of it, is medicine was you could take this subset of knowledge and possibly apply it to people who have less. Because I don't want to get too preachy, but literally like a couple of cents of antibiotics, like literally like 25 cents worth of antibiotics can like save your life in the third world, right? So I really wanted to give back that way. So that's kind of what pushed me to medicine. And then my dad was very, he's not with us anymore, but he was very insistent that you give back and do social work. Social work meaning like you have to give back to the community. You have to give back to whomever. It could be in the US, it could be over in India, wherever, but you have to give it back because you're lucky to have been given this in the first place. And so here I am, board certified internist, 20 years later.
So, Doc, where did you do your medical studies?
So I'm originally from Toronto. So there's University of Toronto, and then I did my training at Penn State, and then I was Canadian, so I had to get out of my visa. We went to a little spot called Wickenburg, Arizona. Which is in, if you are going from Phoenix to Arizona and you blink, you'll miss it. Yeah.
I used to drive through Wickenburg.
Oh, so you know Wickenburg?
Every time from University of Arizona and Tucson.
Is that right?
Back to Las Vegas, I would have to go through Wickenburg.
Is that right?
Always enjoyed it.
We were there for 3 years. And I'll tell you what, because I'm sure, we're both dads, we're both married. That was like a stress test for our marriage. Like, I remember, and my wife, you've met her, I think.
Yes.
she's white, she's Caucasian, and she said to me, she said, you know, I can't live here. It's like too rural for me.
Rural.
So, anyways, what I was trying to say is that it was like a stress test for our marriage, and then we've been married since 5. So it'll be in June. It'll be 20 years. But
Wow.
it was like a stress test for our marriage. But yeah, that was where we ended up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I've met Dr. Ali's wife, and we were at a Raiders game. And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
a big cheerleader.
Yeah,
big supporter of Dr. Ali.
She got me into
So nice.
football. She got me into people like look at us because I'll wear like the Raiders get up and all this.
Yes.
And I'll wear my sunglasses and but she's like she knows it all. Like
Amazing.
yeah. She'll like say, "Oh my God, that was a terrible play," and then like 2 seconds later, the announcer will say, "Oh, this call has been overturned." Probably just like you, right? Like you can call the calls and watch the plays. I'm just like an idiot kind of cheering for the Raiders.
Enjoying the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do have a new quarterback now,
Oh yeah,
which was nice to Geno Smith.
And what we find out about him?
Well, he's coming from the Seattle Seahawks,
Okay.
which kind of makes sense with Pete Carroll
Yeah.
coming from the Seahawks. And they got beat out by the Rams, which were probably the best team outside of the Eagles, which shows he was pretty good.
Yeah, I pray for the Raiders.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm always rooting for him to.
I really like Max.
win
You
it.
said you came from Henderson. I think his mom lives in Henderson.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I love the Raiders. I love just being in Vegas in general.
Right.
So that's about me. And if you let me go, I'll keep blabbing on. So, Mike, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you, Doc, and it's always been a pleasure working alongside you. And I figured your background, your dad was a smart engineer, so I figured that was probably where you kind of got your drive. And I'm sure
Not as smart as him, but thank you.
there you go. See, yeah, and me, my mom is a nurse, as you know.
Met her. Yep.
So
Lovely lady.
Yeah, and you mentioned social work, and I think that's what she wanted to be early on. Is just a social worker, and help people. And we have a home health care company in town, and she'll still be running around 7 o'clock at night, visiting patients in their home. And I know I don't pay her enough for that, but she's just. I think a lot of people, right? You take the oath to be that caregiver. And so you kind of go above and beyond, at least for the most part. So, yeah, she definitely inspired me. I was like yourself, kind of always an overachiever, a lot of sports growing up. I think over 30 years now here in Las Vegas.
You've been here for over 30 years?
I left a little bit, for college.
Oh, geez,
But
okay.
I think, my driver's license has never changed from Nevada.
Oh,
So it
that's
might
great.
even, maybe between 30 and 35.
The one thing I liked
Yeah.
about Arizona is you can get this license and it lasts you till your Medicare age.
Till the end.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry. So you were saying you've been in Nevada for 30 years. I've only been at it for 10.
Yes. Yeah. About 30 years left, came back. And yeah, same as you. I actually went to college to, my goal was to be a doctor. I think about that now.
You made the right decision.
not do it.
Yes.
And I think about it. I never had a type of doctor in mind.
Oh, really? Okay.
Never. I was thinking back on that. I remember my brother. I think he went to do the same thing, and he had like a, pediatric oncologist he wanted to be. But me, I just was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. Probably because growing up in the medical field, and then I just enjoyed college a little bit too much. So I was fortunate to the grades started high, and then they kind of went like a roller coaster to finish out. But because I started high, I was able to get the degree. So I have an undergraduate in physiology.
Cool.
So
I'm so glad we're doing the show because I didn't know that.
okay.
I didn't know your degree was in physiology. So you need to stop me when I'm like rambling on about something wrong. You're like, oh, no. That's actually not how it works, doc.
Oh,
You're mistaken.
I can't really do that.
No, you can. You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was definitely challenging, and the way the body functions. And I actually did some research with a professor, University of Arizona, and she works closely with the medical school out there, and we studied the genioglossus muscle related to sleep apnea.
Oh, yeah.
And I often miss my shifts, because I was sleeping in from the night before. It was an early shift. But yeah, electrodes in the hair, and did a little bit of time in a sleep lab right after college. So yeah, I definitely had the whole kind of medical surroundings as well. And yeah, when I actually was studying for the MCAT
Sure.
to get in, and there was just too many books, and I said, I'm not going to get this, and I need a job. I need to get to work. So, medical sales, I always heard there was good money in that. And my dad was a lifetime salesman, mostly timeshare sales, but sold a lot of things. So I learned a lot from him. And so, yeah, that was kind of my dream out of college, was to somehow get into medical sales, which is not easy. So I was fortunate to get in with home care, which I was like, what is home care? I don't even, my mom, I remember growing up, she took care of a patient in the home. It was like a one-on-one. I think it was an elderly gentleman, but yeah, she did that long hourly nursing, and really grew that strong bond with the family. And so that was the extent I knew of it. And here we are today. You and I are partners there at the company. You're one of our doctors, our head
Yeah.
doctor.
You forgot to mention hospice.
Yes. Yep.
So there's also you have that hospice division.
We do home health. Well, we do a lot actually. We actually from birth all the way to death. We do some pediatric care. Home health care is where we started about 7 years ago with Connolly Care Home Health, where you're one of our doctors. We also do palliative care, which you're also a doctor over that, as well as we have a nurse practitioner. And then our newest venture is really that hospice division. And we're really looking to specialize in the home hospice setting, because that's where we've kind of specialized the whole time. And there's some other players that really do that inpatient hospital type hospice very well. So we like to do everything in the home. I think it's kind of a cool niche. And we were fortunate for you to grab the torch. And I'm sure you've learned a lot, because I think it was a newer venture for you as well.
Again, it's all like spiritual stuff, right? Delving into hospice has been so great. So let me take a minute just to kind of, if the audience doesn't understand what hospice is, it's like, there's been a real shift. So what you do as a doc is you just treat, right? Like, no, you can't do this because your oxygen levels are too low, or you can't do this because it's not the right thing. To maybe hit it home, I'll use an example, but when you do hospice, you are now focused on the end of life, and you're focused on their transition, whether, I always say the transition from here into the afterlife, or whatever, your particular belief system is. But it should be one that is very dignified, not to what we see a lot of, where we have like, you see a lot of people getting coded and they do the compressions, and sometimes it's like a bloody mess, if you don't mind me saying. It's like a bloody mess. And we are much more in tune now with, hey, listen, grandma has lung cancer and it's gone to her brain, and we've done 5 rounds of chemotherapy. And actually my dad did chemotherapy. Yeah. And this is not this is not what they would have wanted. Hospice is now like, hey, listen, we know we're at the end and we're going to make you comfortable. And I tell you, even to this day, it's obviously saving a patient's life is great, but probably a very close number 2 in the hospital is saying, listen, you don't have to be in pain anymore, and we're going to help you with this transition. And it is super gratifying. So like, maybe to hit this point home, kind of like a nugget, we were talking about nuggets before, is let's just say you're on hospice and you have lung cancer, probably from smoking, right? If you're on hospice and the only thing that makes you happy, so this focus is on happiness, the only thing that makes you happy is to have a couple of cigarettes, do it, right? Because at the end of the day, doing all this chemo and radiation and all this stuff, if it gives you an extra 6 months of which you are in the hospital for those 5 months with people poking you and prodding you, it's not worth it. And that actually kind of gets into our next topic about, living long, but it's not just about longevity. It's about health span and lifespan, right? You don't want to just live longer. You want to be good. You don't want to be like in a wheelchair, barely able to speak, and at your grandkids' soccer game.
Yeah, so we've been in hospice, I would say, going on about a year now. It seems longer than that because everything we've made everything from scratch.
Yeah,
which is I don't
always
recommend
tough.
it. It's
But if I was going to do it with somebody in business, it would be you.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that's yeah, we've got along well, and we definitely have went to war through the journey, and I think we're kind of at the cream part, right? You get through all those weeds, and so now we're doing a podcast. This is enjoyable.
Yeah.
Why did we get into it is, well, a lot of we treat, I'd say, over 100 home healthcare patients every day, and they mature into hospice care. It just comes up, like the doc said, you try to save the life, which is really what our home health nurses pride themselves at. That's why a home health nurse often doesn't transition well to being a hospice nurse, because they want to save. And the hospice nurse is really good at what you mentioned. Hey, we've done everything, and now it's time to get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had Dr. Ali was on the team, and he was the first person I thought of, probably because I'm a little bit lazy, and I say, hey, we already have a good doctor. Let's just see if he'll do it.
Yeah, I love home health. The medicine's always there, right? And it's fun, but there's a point when you're spinning your wheels, and it's very intertwined with spirituality. There are people, and again, always, like I always tell patients, get a second opinion if you don't believe the initial practitioner. So if, a family member has really bad cancer, it's gone to their brain, and they've done 2 rounds of chemotherapy, it's very possible one doc could say, yeah, keep doing chemo. It's usually the oncologist, right? Or there's another doc that's like, listen, like, is your family member enjoying this? Or maybe that's not the right word. They're obviously not enjoying it. No one enjoys being at the hospital, but is there a clear benefit, right? Like, is the benefit that I can do said chemo and radiation and then leave the hospital and then enjoy my life? Or is it that I get this chemo radiation and on paper I live an extra 6 months, but I'm in the hospital for 5.9 of those months? That's not the goal.
Yes. Yeah, it was we appreciate you taking the opportunity, and again, growing it from scratch is very fascinating. You do a lot of free care to become Medicare accredited, which is always very rewarding.
It sure is.
We did that on the home health and hospice side. I think home health we did 10 or 11 patients for free,
Mm-hmm.
and then hospice was like 4 or 5. So we're excited. We're excited for the future. in that hospice division, again with Dr. Ali leading the charge. And I think we bring a very innovative service as well. We have that palliative, that pre-hospice care. So as far as like what we can do in the home, we may be at the top. We may be able to do the most care at home.
It's true, because there's a home health companies and they don't do hospice, and there are hospice companies that do not do home health.
Right.
Agreed. That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that till you just said it.
Yes. Yeah. And we do
This is why you're the business guy.
Something like that.
I love it. I love it.
So Doc, you mentioned health span and lifespan. Could you elaborate on those?
Sure. No, it's everything. It's everything. Health, basically one is living longer, like the person who gets chemo and radiation and technically lives 6 months extra. And then there's lifespan, where let's just say you don't do the chemo and radiation. Let's just say you go on hospice. I'm just saying as an example, but you're only living for another 3 months as opposed to 6, but those 3 months are like the greatest months of your life, right? So let's just say you have really bad cancer that's metastasized, or metastasized when a cancer spreads. So it's spread to your spine or your nerves, and you're in a lot of pain, okay? And docs, including myself, we're a little leery to give high doses of pain medications because, it can drop your respiratory drive and you can die from hypoxia, low oxygen levels, et cetera. But when you're on hospice and you understand that, listen, you know what? This person has a lot of pain, and I know exactly why they have pain. They have pain because there's a bunch of cancer in their spine, and we're going to treat it. And then the patient gets the treatment and they're all of a sudden happy. They're not stuck in their wheelchair. They're out playing with their grandkids. That is better. So what we want to focus on is health span is when you're healthy for a certain span of time. Lifespan is literally when you you're born and you die. So if I am born I'll give you my example, my dad. So my dad lived till he was 85. Okay. And I would venture to say, notwithstanding the rat race and all that he had a good health span probably till about 80. Okay. And then he was pretty good. But then that last 2 years or last year and a half, honestly, I feel like if he had gotten better health span and he passed away younger, that might have been better for him. So lifespan is how long you live, and health span is how good you live.
Yes, yeah. I think that's a great description.
Yeah. So
Doc, I know you're big on anti-aging, and a very exciting topic. So how would you relate anti-aging to people improving their health span?
Oh, yeah. Great question. So I was talking about my dad previous, right? So he passed away at 85, and then my grandfather passed away at 96. So 11 years. So and this gets to the crux of your question. Where does that leave me, right? 96 minus 85 is like 11 years, right?
Right.
85 minus 11, which would be my fate, is like 74, which I think, unfortunately, this is actually kind of crazy. In the US, like possibly the number one country ever, right? We have, I think, average age, I'll have to look this up, but average age of death is like 70 something. So I'm right there at 7, but I don't want to be at 74 and die, right? So it's interesting. My dad had passed away, and that obviously shook me. He was like a hero of mine. And then it's time to make a change, is I guess where I was at, is why did it go from 96 to 85 and then whatever it's going to be for me? And that's where I needed to make a change. And it was funny, I was doing these changes along the way, and there was actually a conference here in Vegas, and I did what's called a glycan age. And I tested it, and I was like 24 on this glycan age. It's like ridiculous. It's like, where did this come from?
I believe
and
it.
so,
I believe it.
yeah. So I was really excited. Obviously, I mean, I shared that. I was really excited about anti-aging. It's super important for everybody because things that we do, things that are respected, meaning you're supposed to go to school. And actually what you talked about, you enjoyed your college years, right? And the reason why I was like, becoming a doc, maybe not, I know docs that are 20 years my junior, who are not looking great. And I know docs that are like 10 years my senior that I don't want to be like. And I think if they could, it's just that rat race mentality, right? You're supposed to go to school. You're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. I'm not saying not enjoy your life, but there sometimes it's like you got to put so much on hold, right? And if we could focus on anti-aging, then you could live longer to do whatever it is you want. It's really, my dad used to say this all the time. Time is your most precious capital, right? So the richest person in here is probably you, because you have the most time, right? That's the biggest capital, right? Like, you want to become the best hospice in Las Vegas. Well, you either have 10 years to do it or 20 years to do it. Guess who's going to always make it out on top, right? Like, lifespan is so important for every single person, not just in America, but everywhere. I do some things that I think have influenced that glycan age. It's stuff, they're molecules, and it's lifestyle changes, and it's sleeping, like you talked about. Remember, you're talking about you went to the sleep lab, right? Sleep is so important. Getting less than 6 hours, we're so like, oh no, go. Because you're going to accomplish more, but sleep is just one of those things you just don't give an inch on. So as far as sleep is concerned, to get less than 6, you're cutting your lifespan. Probably your health span too. And to get more than 12 though is also bad. It gets you can do too much. But there are many things out there. I have a stack of molecules that I take that I'll share with you guys. Do you want me to just go right into the stack? Yeah. Okay. So the stack that I use, and I think what's really exciting is that it's not all, I'm a doc, so I have access to a prescription pad. But there are a lot of things that you can do just by going out there, going on the internet, or going to a local drugstore. There's so many things you can do now. But let me tell you my stack. And this is not all inclusive, but just to kind of get the conversation going, is I take an aspirin, I take a statin, I take acarbose, NMN, fisetin, spermidine, taurine, metformin, sirolimus, astaxanthin, and then I also take fish oil and olive oil. So I don't know. It's a lot, right? And that's not it. And it goes without saying. And I'll even give you a point to maybe drive it home. Exercise is so important. Oh my God. Both like aerobic, which I love, and also strength training. To give you an idea, and I'm not saying for anyone to do this, like, please don't take this as advice, right? But if you were smoking and exercising, right? You shouldn't be like, oh, I'm smoking, so I shouldn't exercise. In fact, it's better to smoke and keep exercising rather than because I'm smoking, I shouldn't exercise. Like, exercise is cutting out smoking will not give you the bang for your buck that exercise will, right? Now, if there are smokers that are listening to this, obviously you should stop smoking, right? But what I'm saying is that if you're a smoker and you decide to go exercise as opposed to stopping smoking, exercising will give you a better bang for your buck than stopping cigarettes. Now, of course, doing both is the best, but that gives you an idea of how important exercising is.
So, Doc, what I'm hearing is exercise is very important to anti-aging.
It is.
And I myself, motivated, I'd say a little bit by yourself, doing all
That's
the
very
exercise
nice.
you do. Like I said, I exercised my whole life, a lot of sports, was pretty neurotic about it. And then my daughter was born and I went down to pretty much nothing. It was like, I just, my wife needed my help, and I don't know, I just kind of let it go on the back burner. But I've been back now, I'd say for a year or two, and
Cool.
What I totally agree with you on, because I went in and started strength training a lot. My whole kind of growing up, I never liked lifting weights.
Mm.
I was a cardio guy.
Yeah.
And I know people where they just want to lift weights.
Yeah.
And so for me, I would never feel like I exercised. If I lifted weights an hour,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I did much.
Right.
And then it's probably mental, but I don't feel like I keep my weight down by just
I
lifting
had that
weights.
same thing, right? Like when you do cardio, you're like sweating, you kind of like you're like reborn,
Reborn.
right? Like
Right.
it's sorry.
No, it's I have to get that run, and usually, I try to get 3 miles. I know you do quite a bit more, but 3 miles is if I just
It's
do a
awesome.
mile, I'm gonna still feel like I just lifted weights.
Right.
Whereas, so now I usually lift weights for an hour, and then I go run the 3 miles, and I could tell, over I think I've been doing that for like 2 or 3 months, and you definitely I feel healthier than when I was just lifting weights 3 times a week.
Just looking at you, because you had talked about the Raiders game, I think you're skinnier than
Thank
than
you.
the Raiders game, because we have pictures
Probably.
from that, right?
Sure.
And there's so much to unpack there. Exercising, and then your daughter comes along, right?
Right.
Honestly, dude, like obviously family's number one. And that was the right thing to do. And before you know it, like my kids are 13, 11, and 7. How old's yours?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
man.
turned 3
Oh,
a
man.
month ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, my advice is always do exercise and everything. But the fact that you did that and got to enjoy that, and you're still enjoying that, that does help with longevity. You can't be totally divorced from taking care or being with the family. Obviously, you can't be like, life balance. And that was the right thing to do. So that's number one. That was the right thing to do.
Right.
Every day of the week, spend time with your family. That will make you live long. The indigenous people understand that. We don't really, nursing homes and all this stuff. I understand there's a role for nursing homes, but the indigenous people, other cultures, like culture that my parents were from, they really revere the elderly, and we have so much to learn from them. Guys like in Okinawa that live forever, they really revere the elderly. We have a lot in America to learn from that. As far as running, I'm actually the opposite though on running. I actually loved weight training when I was younger, and then I started getting into running here. And it's interesting. This is it's so crazy because we were doing intros at the beginning. I got into running because of I'd kind of been a runner, like you're saying, like 3 to 5 miles. Every now and then, of course, it dropped off, it came back, etc. What really, really got me was my son had meconium aspiration. And so I had my 2 daughters, then my son, he had meconium aspiration, and he almost died. And it really took me for a loop. Okay. And so I hated everyone, everything medical I hated. Okay. And what it forced me to do was I needed a way to forget the pain, right? So here's this kid, I like literally just born, hypoxic, low oxygen levels. He ended up getting surfactant, which helps you with your oxygen. Then he finally he was on high flow oxygen. Then he needed to get intubated.
Wow.
And then they needed to put a needle in his back. And I remember thinking, like, here's this little kid, not even a kid, like literally like a neonate, right. Who's gone through all these procedures, and I haven't even done that. And I'm an old man. And suffice it to say, extremely, extremely painful for me emotionally. Like I would give you know this as a parent. Like people say, oh yeah, I would love to take the bullet for you, right? I would, like 1,000 times over, 1,000,000 times over, I would love to just switch positions with him, but I couldn't, right? And so the way that I got over the emotional pain of that was I would run. And so, you know, by the grace of God or whatever you believe in or whatever your belief system is, he came out of the ICU in a week and he's doing great, and he's doing great. Much smarter than I was. Like, he'll say to my daughters, he'll say the funniest things. He'll say like, what does he say? I'll have to figure it out at the end.
Sure.
But, there's words that he says that I would never dream of saying. But it'll now that I'm thinking about it, it's jumped to the back of my head.
I know you two are very close.
Yeah, no, it's we're doing Pokemon. It's crazy. But what was funny is I had a friend who actually just got a job at Summerlin. But he was a runner, and he said to me, he said, "Hey," he'd say, "Naruz, I know that you've been running out of spite, just a question for you. How much are you running out of spite that you're, because you're angry with the world? How much are you running out of spite because your son is in the ICU, or he just left the ICU?" And it was probably like 10 miles a day.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. And so that gave me, I think now looking back, it was an endorphin kick, and that just helped me to relax. And so what ended up happening is he said, "Well, since you're running that much out of spite, would you like to join me and run the New York Marathon?" Right? Because he was going to do the New York Marathon. So my son was born in January of 18, and I did not run the New York Marathon. I ran the Vegas Marathon, and that was
the rock and roll.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Yeah, the one that just passed. So in 18, on 11/11 of 18, I ran the marathon, and this is funny. On 11/4, which was a week prior, I got my vasectomy. Because I was never going to have any more children after this. Like I was, yeah. So I want to take care of both things at once. So that's kind of like, that's my long way of getting back to, that's how I got into running. And yeah, you're right. There was just a rock and roll. And now, there was a rock and roll. I think it was, I forget what day it was, but like a couple of days prior, I just ran like half a marathon at the house.
A couple of days prior.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just because it's on,
I know you do that. Yeah. You send me, your
the Peloton
stats,
stuff,
and it's like a weekend, and you're doing a half marathon.
Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
It's been fabulous. Running is fabulous.
Yes.
To your point, though, so that's how I like cardio now, because I'm relatively good at it.
I had a question. I was thinking about this. How do you maintain your feet? Because when I run a lot, I really need a day in between. If I run consecutive days, I'll need a whole day off. But how do you maintain your feet running that much?
I don't run every day.
Okay.
I do run maybe once every 2 or once every 3 days.
Okay.
And I do my strength training not on the same day.
Gotcha.
Because you were saying you do your workout and then you do your run.
Yeah.
I used to do that. And now what I do, and I don't know if it's the right thing, but what I do is there's a day just focused on strength and there's a day focused on cardio. And so getting back to the anti-age, there's a thing you can check. It's called a VO2 max. And a VO2 max that's really good puts you like really high up. I've never checked mine, but I will. Maybe by the next show.
Yeah, you should.
But we're actually going to try and do, my wife and I, we're going to try and do a DEXA scan.
Okay.
Which for most people, they think of that as osteoporosis, but I'm going to check on my visceral fat. So that's where you can, they say, oh, you should eat this, you should eat that. You know what? Have your diet. Check your labs. And I did check my labs. My A1C is great. It's like 4.8. So that just came back, but my lipids aren't back yet.
Is that diabetic?
Yeah, that's
still?
from diabetes, right?
But is it still diabetic or you're not?
No, I'm not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So below 5.7 or something.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
you've reversed diabetes.
I have, but I never really had it. I was taking the metformin. That probably is helping, but I was taking metformin for anti-age.
Okay.
I wasn't taking because I was pre-diabetic or anything.
Okay.
So this is actually another funny thing with my son, is he's like, Ronaldo has a 6-pack. Did we talk about this already?
No.
It was like Cristiano Ronaldo has a 6-pack. I'm like, yeah, he's a soccer player with his own chef. He works out like who knows how many hours a day. But anyways, he goes, Ronaldo has a 6-pack. And today, it's funny, I was looking because I've lost a little bit of weight. And today I'm actually having the beginnings of a 6-pack.
Wow.
Yeah, the beginnings, which gets me, there's a couple of points here. Number one, a 6-pack is not important, right? The DEXA scan, if you have a 6-pack and you're accumulating all your fat in your liver, that's not good. You're not going to live long because you have a 6-pack. You're going to live long if you don't have a lot of visceral fat, which is like fat that accumulates in places that it shouldn't. So that's what I'm going to check with the DEXA scan. The other point from that is that, we talked about being successful. So if you said, for example, oh, getting a 6-pack successful, but it isn't. Visceral fat is where it's at. But if you want, but you're there. Now I'm here. Now it's time to enjoy it. Like just enjoy. Oh yeah, my son liked a 6-pack. Maybe the wife likes a 6-pack. I don't know. Enjoy it. But just, not be like, oh, I've gotten here and now I'm not going to appreciate it because visceral fat's where it's at. So really about being successful and enjoying it at the time. You're enjoying the time with your 3-year-old because it goes, man. It's like, it's gone. It's gone.
I was thinking that when you mentioned that earlier, it's hard, or we don't often enjoy when we're in the success because, especially in the business world, I'm always, hey, we might be winning, but we need to stay ahead of the game. Otherwise, you could be out.
Yeah.
So it's I think as time has went on and I've slowed down a little bit, I've been able to stay in the moment at times, but it doesn't last long.
Well, you got me on to, you do yoga.
Yes.
And do you steam as well?
No, I would love to, but I haven't had the time to steam. I do a lot of meditation.
Oh, yes, you do meditation.
Yep.
Super important.
Yeah.
And you do breathing.
You taught me that 4-4-4-4, I believe it was.
I do 4, 7, and 8. But
4,
yeah,
7, and
I'm
8.
sure there's other permutations.
Whatever I remembered, but when I wake up, I do an hour. It's a company called Centerpoint, with an E on the end, and it's backed by Harvard.
Oh, cool.
And Cedars-Sinai, the Menninger Clinic, I guess.
Okay.
And they use it. I think they have the patients wear it 8 weeks before surgery. Anyhow, the company's website, it's got so much information on brain waves and how it's amazing. Anyhow, I was introduced to that, and I don't know. I think I've done it for about 4 years now, pretty much every day.
Oh, awesome.
And just the way you see the world more positive. You just have that intuition, that inspiration. So I guess I'm addicted to meditation.
Good for you.
Yeah, but definitely have dove back into. I think that's what happened is I began to treat my brain most. Like I came up treating my body first. The exercise and the weightlifting, the running, and now probably because I have a ton of responsibility, I got to treat my brain. And I was reading like LeBron James. I think I read that he spends $1 million a year in self-care. And what that told me is that as we age, we definitely have to get into that self-care world. If you want to, compete at that high level, or have a six pack, when you're not a teenager,
I never had. I didn't have it as a teenager.
Amazing.
That's the thing.
Amazing.
That's what's funny.
See that? That's like, and you celebrated, you're 50 now?
No, I'll be 50 in January.
50 in January.
Yeah.
So 49 and you just got a six pack.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not anti-aging, there's nothing. That's like the definition of, so.
I think that it's I'm obviously I'm going to enjoy it. But understand that so number one, enjoy it. Number two, understand that all the exterior stuff it's transitory. And I want to make sure that like if I can have I'm just using you can use glycan aging, you can use DNA methylation. I think Bryanjohnson uses DNA methylation tests. But be anti-age on the inside, and then you can fix the outside. I'm not above Botox or Sculptra or whatever.
Nice.
I'm not above that. I've never used it, but I'm not above it. But fix what's on the inside first, and then if you want to do that other stuff, because what would be the worst, and this goes with anyone's career, right? What would be the worst is that you look great because you've gotten Botox and filler and blah, 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 but you're like 30 years older on the inside. Guess what? You're gonna pass away, and then you'll look good in your grave, right? That's not the end point. The end game is to be healthy on the inside, and then you should look the part. And then true. As far as like business, you can go at it like Bryanjohnson again. Bryanjohnson's like, yeah, it was like the rat race. Here he is. He sold Venmo, right? He's business. Like he sold it, I think, for like 400 million. And that's why he can do all these crazy things, right? So he look at him, maybe, I don't know if it correlates time-wise, but if you look at him when he's the most successful, right? Which is right before he sold his company for 400 million, he might not have looked great. He might have been super obese. He might have had age numbers that were terrible.
Right.
So he's somebody that actually learned from, no, it's not about just being successful. It's about, number one, you got to enjoy it. And then the other thing that he did at the end of the movie, if you remember, you've seen it, right, with Bryanjohnson?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. After you told me about it, I watched it.
He, at the end, was like social interaction, which gets back to you hanging out with your 3-year-old, you hanging out with your wife, or just being emotionally available. That is so important for longevity. So he's kind of like, socially awkward. So he's trying to get he's going to make a lot of money off this, like his stack or his foods that he eats. But he also has like this group that gets together and does like a hike. And the emotional aspect is what will help them with anti-aging, because that's like the piece he's missing.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe it. Even that's how I came up. I was a salesperson, so I was just always around people, probably more than the average. Mm-hmm. And then as I transition into the businessman role, I wasn't out there as much, and I could tell the difference. So I try to get out there a little bit more these days, and that human interaction is just makes you feel good.
Yeah, it's And it's necessary to live longer. I mean, you can have a great stack,
Right.
not exercise, not have any human interaction, and you're not going to do well. So,
And I think that's America, where I just want the stack. I want to eat it, and I want to look perfect and feel great. And you got to put in work, right? The work is where it comes. So
it's so important for that spirituality. It's really about that. To be able to I think Anthony Robbins talks about the art of fulfillment. There's success, and then the art of fulfillment is enjoying said success. And then he even goes on further and saying, you know, we can celebrate when hospice is a multi-billion-dollar industry. We can wait till then, or we can fulfill it or fulfill ourselves right now. Right?
true.
And just, you know, again, I'm not trying to get, I've said this 1,000 times, but you know, to some extent, this is what I believe, is that you're going to get what God gives you. And not to say that you shouldn't strive for more, right? But it's predetermined, in my opinion. So
I believe that.
you believe that too? Great.
There's a plan. There's a plan.
There's a plan, right? And I just don't, like, I'm not saying don't strive. Don't be like, oh yeah, well, you know what? God's predetermined for me that I'm going to die of a heart attack, so I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, you know, enjoy the process, right? Enjoy what we're going through, right? Like we're in the preliminary stages of the show, right?
Right.
What if we could celebrate like our millionth subscriber? Like what if we could, because all you got to do is tell your brain that we have 1 million subscribers. And then if you do that enough, you can convince your brain to feel it.
I believe that.
So it's, I am really anti wait till it happens and then we can celebrate. That's not my deal. I see that a lot with my kids. It's like, oh, I'll be happy when I get like a PSA 10 Magic Carp. That's like like a card, right? And I'm like, no, you don't gotta wait. You don't wait till then. Just be happy and act like you have it now. It's really hard for a 7-year-old.
Sure.
But like, you know, it's the same thing I would tell an adult.
Yeah. And a thought just came to mind. It's interesting with the God's plan, like we talked about. Is it, so I guess in that regard, it was already planned that you would get into anti-aging and try to reverse your own age? Or is that you kind of changing the plan?
Interesting.
That was something.
I don't know, because that's a really good question, because it was obviously God who took my dad quick.
Right.
And it was obviously God who made, or not made, but it really gets, we're really getting deep now, which I love. I love this stuff. Like I love anti-aging. I love getting into the roots of spirituality. Which is, you know, people say, don't talk about your spirituality, don't talk about politics. And it's just like, okay, but then we're all just walking robots, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm a doc, you should listen. No, like you should maybe tune in, because I think the same way that most people do. And, I really believe that there's a plan, and, you know, God took my dad quickly. And God also gave my son meconium aspiration.
Right.
So I don't know. You know?
And that's a tough one with the child. You don't get that plan.
Right. No, I mean, as a result of that, though, my health has been so different. Like I just crossed 140, so I'm like 136 pounds or something.
Wow.
Yeah. And to give you an idea,
I told some of the people in the office that.
Yeah.
I think the girls were even jealous.
So it's been such a great journey.
Right.
And I'm focused on the right things.
And where did you start? Where was your weight?
Oh, I have it. I'll send you a picture.
200?
Yeah, like 196.
Okay.
Yeah, 196.
And I'm probably hovering around that.
Are you around? How?
I haven't weighed. That's something I don't do is I don't weigh myself
Not super important.
unless I go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Then I'll use their scale.
Yeah.
But I used to weigh every day.
Okay.
Every day, maybe every other day.
Mhm.
And it just really kind of messes with your that's at the top of mind all the time.
There's a lot of like water weight. There's a lot of when you go. I think maybe because I've reached my goal was like 150.
Wow.
Yeah. So
You've eclipsed.
Yeah. So now
That's great.
But now it's not, what's important to me is, okay, now I'm at said weight. Now to give you an idea, one of the things, actually Atia talks about, a lot of people talk about, is your consumption of protein. And so it's funny, I am actually now introducing calories, but I will only introduce calories. I won't do it at the expense of sugar. I'll do it at the expense of protein. Let me clarify that. So recommendations are, and again, this is what I do for myself. So let's just say I'm going to use this round number 70, which is about 150 pounds, but I'm a little less. But let's just say 70. 70 kilos is what they do all the studies with, right? So if I'm 70 kilos, then I should be having between 1 and 1.5 per kilo of protein. So if I'm 70, whatever 70 kilos to what's 70 plus 35? Like 105? So I got to be between 70 and 105 grams of protein a day. And I'm not getting that.
I was going to say, are you doing that?
I'm trying to get there. I'm doing that probably right around 70 now, but that's at the expense of more calories. But I'm okay to introduce more calories because I've already gotten to the whatever weight and I guess the thing that I would say is don't focus on the weight. It's not super important. And it's definitely not good to weigh every day. Probably at the same time, maybe once a week. You don't want to ever veer off too much. Like I'm going to take a cruise, right?
Right.
So
exciting.
It's going to be awesome.
You got to eat.
And you
got to enjoy.
You bet you I'm going to eat, right? You bet your ass I'm going to eat.
Right.
I eat a lot, right? But I'm going to enjoy it. It's time with my family. I've worked super hard.
Yeah.
And you're going to enjoy it. And that helps with longevity. But for me to come back and weigh myself right after and be so angry with myself that I gained 7 pounds.
Right.
That's not me. I'm going to, what I'll do is, let's just say, I'm just using as an example, I gained 7 pounds. If I come back and I'm 7 pounds heavier, I'm going to be happy that I could enjoy this time with my family, and I'll want to do it again. Don't get focused on, now I got to cut all this weight and I can't, I'm going to get stressed out about 7 pounds. I'm not going to do that. And that's really where it's at. Every single disease process is worse with stress. And meditation, breathing, prayer, again.
Prayer.
Everybody's different. Everybody's got a different. I don't think everybody has a different take on prayer. People just pray differently. But prayer is great because I think it centers you and helps you breathe.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm involved in prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If you're all over the place, it brings you back, like you said.
Yeah. There's no time that I try and focus on. There's no time when I'm alive now that I'm like, oh my God, I feel sorry for myself because of XYZ. Like that's
Nice.
That's bullshit. It should be, I feel this way. What can I do to change it? Right. But I feel this way, but I have all these resources and I can make a change. Or I try and think about those that don't have what we have, Right. That's another one I try and get on my kids. And oh man, like maybe focus on all the Pokemon cards you already have, Abe.
Right.
Maybe don't focus on the one that, we may or may not have bought, And I do it so much with my kids that they're tired of hearing it. You know, they're like, oh, I know, Dad. You're going to tell me to focus on what we already have. Yeah, I know, Dad.
Right.
It's funny.
So, Doc, back to this anti-aging stack, and we're familiar with the Brian Johnson documentary.
Right.
In listening to you, your stack was about 12 supplements. And in the Brian Johnson documentary, he was taking upwards of 100 pills
12,000.
a day, which to me, I said, I don't know how you could eat that many.
Right.
But, you've had substantial weight loss and lifespan gain. So speak a little bit on that if you could.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brian Johnson probably is still the GOAT. Let me explain real quick. Brian Johnson's rate of aging, I think, is around 0.6. Okay. So just to kind of explain that, you and I, assuming we're aging at normal, right? So we measure our age on our license. That's how many times the Earth has gone around the sun, right? So in 1 year, we would have gone around the sun once, right? And then there's your actual biologic, epigenetic age, et cetera. And so what he is doing is his rate of aging, I think, is 0.6. It's the best in the world, right? So what that means is if we are rating at a rate of 1.0, when we'll just take a 20-year-old. A 20-year-old who's rating at 1 after 1 year is 21.
Right.
Him after a year, we're going to say 0.5 to make the numbers easy. He will be 20.5. So it's like whatever. But in 10 years, he will now have the biologic age 25, whereas somebody who's aging at a rate of 1 would be 30. So that's when it really, 20 to like 100, right? That's 80 years, but then instead you're at 0.5 and you're 20 plus 40, which is 60. That's
pretty good.
So I will give it to him. He's definitely the GOAT, but there are people I think that don't have millions of dollars. And so he definitely, I'm sure, I've never checked my rate of aging, but I'm sure my rate of aging is not 0.6 or even close. What I will say is that I think you can, and I should check a rate of aging on myself, but I think you can spend less than millions of dollars a day and reach maybe a 0.7.
Wow.
0.8.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Like, and especially if you get into it early, like
what would you recommend? What is like a quick stack if someone was just starting?
That is, I think that if I had to really hone it down, I would probably use certain molecules. I'll just go on with the ones that you can get over the counter. And of course there's caveats, right? So, aspirin, NMN, if it's legal in your country, Physetin, spermidine, taurine, you can get over the counter. Metformin is not over the counter in this country, but it is in some countries. Astaxanthin, fish oil, and olive oil. And actually think about this. The most common cause of like morbidity and mortality in the U.S. is stroke and heart attack, right? Mm-hmm. And what's the first thing that happens? I know because I admit these patients, right? First thing that happens when they come through the door and they are having a heart attack or a stroke is we put them on an aspirin and a statin, right? Mm. Now the data used to be just take aspirin all the time.
What is statin?
Oh, a statin is like a atorvastatin, Lipitor, cholesterol-lowering drugs.
Cholesterol lowering. Okay, very nice.
So I take an aspirin and a statin. Aspirin, you have to be careful with if you have like ulcers in your stomach or what have you. The new data is suggesting that we shouldn't take it after the age of 70 because there's an increase in the risk of bleeding. Mm. As far as Physetin, spermidine, taurine, those are just proven. We'll probably get into that in another podcast. The ones that I wanted to comment on, maybe that will make sense, like fish oil, olive oil. I was talking to my wife about this. You look at Italians, right? And Italians have a really high carb diet, right? Like all the stuff I love, pizza, pasta, bread, whatever. I love it. My wife she loves Italian food, and my oldest daughter loves Italian food. but they live long. The Mediterranean diet, you've heard this, right?
Yes.
And I think about it, and we don't get enough. We don't use olive oil, right? We use like not Crisco. We don't use Crisco anymore, but we used to.
I use more vinegar. Like if there's olive oil and vinegar, right, for the salad,
yeah,
I'll use the vinegar. I think more than the olive oil.
What I am doing, and sorry, this is one thing that'll be really beneficial for you, maybe, and for the viewers, is when you use olive oil, right? Make sure you don't bring it up to a certain temperature. So if you use it like on a salad, that's perfect, right? But like, for example, I take olive oil, like 2 tablespoons.
Wow.
I'll take 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then just after I've cooked the eggs in butter, I love butter. So I'll cook it in butter, and then I'll just drizzle the olive oil on top. And then I just take fish oil, like DHA. I take that on a regular. There's no way I'm going to eat enough fish to get that much. So I just take like a supplement. But like if you think about the Mediterraneans, right, or maybe the Italians or the people that live around the water, they're eating fish. The Okinawans, they're close to fish. So we could take all these things all these people that are living longer, maybe just bring that to us. So I've really just in the past probably 2 weeks, I've always had fish oil, but I'm really increasing my olive oil, which is like the good cholesterol.
Very good.
And then obviously exercise, we talked about weight training. So we kind of touched on running, and then I went off on a tangent, but the strength training is really important. My own personal thing I need to do more of is do more weight training. There's just something about moving a weight that helps you with longevity. And I think it might, we talk about grip strength in the medical community. And grip strength is really important. Remember, you check grip strength on people with strokes and stuff, and I was like, whatever, you have good grip strength. Whatever. What does that even mean? And grip strength is correlated with your longevity. Like if you have a really good grip strength, which then brings it back to just strength in general, you're probably less likely to fall and break a hip.
True.
So strength training is really, really important. Even with my wife, she's doing strength training now. Sometimes women, and I'm making a generalization here, but sometimes women are like, oh, well, I don't want to get big and buff. And you don't. You just have to get strong, because a woman is still undergoing the same stressors as a man is in the world, right? Like if you're on a plane and you're trying to put your luggage away, the luggage doesn't care that you're a girl. You're still going to have to lift up maybe 30 to 50 pounds and put it above your head, So strength training is super important. I'm really trying to get my strength up.
And what are you doing? What type of exercises outside of the grip strength?
Oh, sorry. So currently all I'm doing are all these movements that I hated. Okay. So I'm doing like a bent over row.
Sure.
And
Squat? Are you squatting?
I am doing like a kind of like a squat. So
Nice.
I have like a tonal. So I will do a squat, then I'll do bench press, and there's bench press, squat, and then there's something for your butt. But these are all large compound movements that basically, if you think about like a bent over row or a squat, right? You think it's just your legs, but you're having to like stabilize your core. You're using your back. You're basically using every muscle. And that's why I like these exercises, because it's a good bang for your buck, right? And then basically you're using all your muscles. So those are the kinds of things that I do for strength training. Now, for example, like biceps, right? Like who doesn't want really big arms? Right?
Sure.
But
I like a couple curls.
Yeah, but I don't do like, if I do this one movement where I kind of lean forward and I pull back, and that kind of helps with my arms, but
Right.
I'm not focused on arms. I'm focused on the focus is on stabilizing your core, using your back, and just getting used to these movements, because something about that stress helps you with longevity. Atia talks about grip strength. he talks about like a dead hang, like just dead hanging with your body weight for like 1 to 2 minutes. And that's not something you just get right away. Like I couldn't do it right away.
That's quite a bit.
Right. He does like farmers, where you just basically take a weight and hold it and you just walk with it. It's like a farmer's run or a farmer's walk or something.
I've seen something like that.
So yeah, no, strength training. I would say strength training, cardio, sleep, some molecules, and then your stress, meditation. I think if you just start with those, I think you're way ahead of the game.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. Thank you.
Oh, sure. I mean, I could drone on, but no, maybe we'll expand.
We'll continue to
next
expand.
week. So,
Dr. Ali, I thoroughly enjoyed the time spent, and I learned a lot from you as always, and I'm sure the audience did. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And you, again, I learned about your the exercise physiology. You we call it pimping, because when you're like an attending physician and you're asking your resident or intern a bunch of questions that they probably don't know, that's called pimping. It's not like pimping like whatever. But
I've heard that.
You heard
I've
that? You heard that? Okay.
Yeah.
I really loved our conversation. We had a lot of things. It's not just anti-age. It's not just exercise. It's spiritual. It's being a dad. I think we covered a lot of stuff.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I want to thank our audience. This is our first episode, so very exciting, and just excited to continue on with the doc.